In the studio with us this morning, we have Merion Hull, who is a World War II vet in the Navy. Coming up in a little bit, we'll have Bob Hines with us, and he was a World War II vet, served in the Pearl Harbor arena as well. But Merion, nice to have you with us this morning, sir. God bless you. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
What a joy to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
World War II in the Navy. What was your rank?
Third class ship fitter, welder.
Welder.
Mm-hmm.
You have quite the story, and I've heard bits and pieces of it. And I want to say to our audience this morning, we are recording these, and we'll make them available. But where were you when your story began?
I was in high school. They drafted me right out of high school at 18 years old, and I took my training in Omaha, to my shots and all everything, and then they transferred me to Farragut, Idaho, where my boot training was.
Okay. And then from there, I mean, that's a long ways from water.
Yes, it is. Well, we were right on Lake Pondray, so we had lots of water.
Okay.
But it was so cold there. Everything was froze up. We had to break ice to go out to row a boat and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But after we had our training there, they shipped us to San Francisco, and we was there for about a week waiting for our ship to come in. And we boarded a troop ship and went over in South Pacific.
South Pacific. And so how long were you in the actual battle zone?
I was in there about 2.5 years.
Wow. All right, so you're young, right out of high school,
right.
Newly trained, and did you go in as a welder? Did they train you to be a welder?
No, I would done some of that before I went in, and I'd done a lot of it after I got aboard the ship.
Okay.
We had a lot of mishaps and had to plug holes and weld stuff over to keep the water out.
Right.
But it was, we were all over the South Pacific.
All over
Yeah.
Were you on the same boat all the time?
Yes.
You were? Mm-hmm. All right. Now, there's a part of your story where
he means ship, by the way.
Ship. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You can get in trouble with the Navy, Perry.
I know. Okay, well, ship. Your ship. I didn't know the same ship you left San Francisco on was the one that you would stay on throughout the entire duty.
Well, I didn't board it until we got to New Guinea.
Oh, okay.
And I went over on a troop ship.
There's
several. I don't know how many was on there, but there's a bunch. But after we got to New Guinea, they transported me over to the Trathon.
And how big of a ship was that?
It's pretty small, actually, 365 feet long, about 300 personnel.
And powered by?
It is powered, a fuel oil.
Fuel oil.
Diesel.
Okay.
Diesel.
Yeah, okay. And what was your job on the ship?
I was a welder, and that was my job. I was the only one on board ship, so they about worked me to death trying to keep up with everything.
Something that so amazes me when I see documentaries about World War II and stuff is some of the damage that those ships were able to take and keep functioning. And part of the reason for that is they had a crew that knew how to get to busy to fixing what was done.
Yeah. I saw a lot of action. We was in a number of different bombardings and whatnot. But we were right behind the Franklin, which is a big carrier, and 2 suicides hit her, and that was the worst sight I think I ever saw.
You're talking about the kamikaze pilots?
Yeah.
Came to you or came to the Franklin?
The Franklin.
Really?
We were right behind shielding her. And we had to pull out because it was blowing up so bad. It went clear down into the magazine.
Ooh.
Whoa.
So it was a pretty bad sight. But the ship didn't sink. We, after we got through with that, we helped transport her back to Honolulu.
Okay.
And from there, I don't know what happened.
Okay. Now, you witnessed kamikaze yourself, right?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Well, we were screening for carriers and battle wagons, and this one came in, and we saw him coming, and we knocked him down, and he landed, but he didn't try to hit us. And when we went out and picked him up, he was burnt a little bit from the oil, but not bad. But he was born and raised in San Francisco, and his folks still lived there.
Oh.
And he just wanted to go home. And so he didn't really try to come in on us. He just hoped that we'd pick him up, and then we did. And then he could talk English as good as any of us.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was born and raised in San Francisco.
And you had a couple of times where you were welding to keep your ship afloat.
Right.
Tell us
right.
about those.
Well, a 5-inch projector hit us and blew a hole 6x6 just right by the number 5 gun, 5-inch. And of course, everything below was wet. And I had to plate that and weld a hole shut until we could get in and get it repaired. And that was something else. If you ever welded aboard ship and had a wave of water come over, you got hurt.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it was bad. I mean, you had to really be careful.
Where did you get the material?
We had material aboard ship.
So you did. You carried pieces of the boat with you.
Yeah, we did. We had our plate and everything was right aboard ship.
But that hole was above the waterline. So
yeah, it was right on the main deck.
Well, and did you? I've always been so curious about that because it's not covered in documentaries. You see the damage, and they just say, and then the ship was fixed, and you say, well, how did that happen? How did it get fixed?
Yeah, but that was my job, was to pull to cap that hole and weld it in. There was 3 killed and 12 injured in the accident.
Whoa.
The 5-inch.
What if there was damage below the waterline?
Well, there was. We lost all of our powder for our 5-inch guns. They went clear into the magazine.
Is there any way to? I mean, how does the crew respond to a hole below the waterline?
They just have to
seal it off.
Seal it off. That was my job too, was to make sure everything was sealed. And after I once sealed the doors, I mean, they was in there. No way opening that door.
Wow.
So
we're talking to Merion Hull. He's a World War II vet, served in the Navy and down in the South Pacific, and saw a lot of action. Now, when your ship was damaged, you guys went to port, you got it fixed, and you went back out.
Yeah, we did.
And see any more action?
Oh, yes, we saw lots of action. Our radar quit. We went into Sydney, Australia, for a week and had that repaired, and that was something. I think Sydney's a beautiful place.
What of all the things that I think there's an interesting characteristic with World War II vets, especially, is you don't talk much about your experiences.
No, I don't. In fact, my own family has tried to get the information out of me, and I'm trying to forget it. It's hard to do.
Why?
Well, I just saw too many kids get killed. When the Franklin blew up, there was bodies, arms, legs, bodies flying all over back where we were. And we had to stay there and patrol the water to make sure there wasn't any of them alive, and there wasn't. But there's several hundred of them killed on that occasion.
I have a friend that I was just visiting with Friday who was a veteran of Battle of the Bulge and D-Day and in the Army, and he commented that he had nightmares for years after the war, and that actually he's 86 now. He had a nightmare a year ago. So at 85 years old, he had a nightmare.
Oh, I still do that. It's
you
scary.
Still have nightmares?
Oh, yeah. But I try to keep all that information to myself. I don't think my family really should know what I went through, because I hope nobody else does.
How did prayer play a role in your life then, as a young man, seeing that kind of action?
Prayer was when we prayed a lot. I'll tell you, I did. I was the captain on a 5-inch gun, and that was my job, to keep everything in order in there. There was 5 of us in the gun, and the longest we was at GQ was 3 days and 3 nights. Never left the gun.
Wow.
Due to Japanese was coming in there pretty heavy. Well, causing hitting whatever they could hit.
So when you were with your, I mean, there's the old saying, as we talked to Sergeant Adams a little bit earlier. The old saying is, "There's no atheist in a foxhole." I would assume there's no atheist in the hull of these boats or ships. Excuse me.
No, we'll keep after him.
We captured a couple of Japs that was swimming out to us. They was going to try and get aboard, but they didn't make it. But that's the closest we ever got, as far as I know.
What do you want people to know about that? Because it seems, I mean, you don't want to share it, but on the other hand, I think we're in a season in our country where we really just don't get the price that was paid for America to be free. We've become so politically correct, we don't understand that every once in a while you just got a flat fight to defend what you have.
Yeah, well, that's true. We were in so many battles, I can't even tell you what they were called for sure. But some, we was in 4 or 5 of them that was real bad. I mean, there was a lot of boys killed.
Do you still have some colleagues you contact with?
Not too many. I don't know who they are or where they live now, but I haven't had any contact with any of the guys aboard ship.
You know, one thing that, and I saw Sergeant Adams nodding his head when you said about, you saw such horrors you don't think anyone should know, but I would say that, both of you, I mean, there are 2 things that bother me about the issue of war and the military when it comes to education of our youth. One is there's not much taught about military codes of honor, duty, honor, country. And they do teach somewhat the horrors of war, but they don't teach so much, from what I've been able to tell, about the horrors of tyranny. So if you don't know, I mean, you guys experienced hard stuff. But if our young people only hear about the horrors, but don't understand that there's a reason for that sacrifice, because the horrors of tyranny, and Nazi Germany is obviously a classic example, but also Japan, the horrors of tyranny are real. That's what you guys stood against, you know.
And we had to face it day by day in regards to what happened. One of my very best friends was killed in that episode we had. The only mark they could find on him, it cut his jugular vein. He bled to death. And he tried to get to sick bay, but he didn't quite make it. But the worst of that was I had to prepare him for burial, and that was so hard.
You had to prepare your best friend.
Yep. I had to weight him and clothe him, and then help with the burial.
What was it like when it was over, when you came home?
It was a big relief in one way, but still, like everybody else probably, I was so nervous. I was a nervous wreck when I got home. I was home 3 days, and I told my mother that I just had to move. I had to go. So I went back to L.A., and I was there for about a year, and I worked different jobs. I worked for her, my wife's uncle, for a while. But I was just completely out of it. I didn't know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and I was that way for a long time.
Let me just bring in Sergeant Adams with us. He's, we had him on just a few moments ago. You're shaking your head with this, Sergeant. The transition from military life, a war zone, back to civilian life. I'm sensing something here, that it's a hard transition. Is that true?
It's extremely hard. I had a hard time with it. Back then, post-traumatic stress disorder, things of that nature, wasn't really, no one really knew about it, and it's a big thing now. And it's hard. It's hard from going from guys you can depend on and trust to back out to the civilian world where you don't really know. I know for myself, I wandered around for a bit.
Merion, you obviously were forever changed.
Yes, my lifestyle was really changed because I was a farm boy and lived on a farm all my life until I went into service. And it was a total different. I never really thought too much about it until I got into Omaha for my physical. Saw all them young kids in there. There must have been 1,000 of them. And that really started to shake me up. And I was that way from then on, more or less.
Because you were drafted. You had to go.
Yeah, I had to go. Yes, I was drafted. I had enough credits to pass, and they told me that I'd get my diploma when I got home. So that's the way it went. But when we left Omaha, we were transported to Farragut, Idaho in cattle cars. That's all I could find to do it. And that was quite a trip. It took us about a week to get to Farragut, Idaho.
Wow.
And that was something else. We couldn't get out. They had us locked in. We couldn't get out.
You were a week in a cattle car?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Wow, I never
Unbelievable.
heard that. That's
Wow.
Is there
Did you experience any bright side to this experience?
Not really. Not anything that I'd want to go back and do again.
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that's commented on fairly often about quote unquote the bright side of war is just you see the love you guys have for each other, protecting each other's back, as Sergeant Adams was saying. You don't ever that kind of love and self-sacrifice for your fellow sailors in your case, or Marines in Sergeant Adams' case. That's hard to duplicate in civilian society.
Yeah. Well, that was me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know which way to go. I just had to get off by myself and, try and figure out what I was going to do. I know I hated to leave home because Mom hated to see me leave again. I was only there 3 days after being gone for 2.5 years. And I went back to L.A. and like I said, I worked enough to keep alive, but I never could get over the sight that I'd seen.
Right. The thing is, they've learned a lot too about tours of duty. In World War II, of course, the tour of duty is you're in it till you win it, because it was an existential fight. And they've learned now, with as Sergeant Adams knows, that the tours of duty, that after a certain length of time in real battle, the efficiency level, Sergeant, you may know it's about a year or 6 months to a year, somewhere in there,
give or take.
And after that, they find that there's an efficiency level that starts to really decline. And you guys went way beyond that limit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We figured we was probably one of the. Well, they kept telling us if we got hit out there and got lost, that wasn't a big deal. Because only 300 people aboard ship.
Oh.
What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand.
You were expendable.
Yeah.
So
you can't believe the things that they sent us to do by ourselves. When John Kennedy was over there,
right,
we went out to look for him. We found his boat, but we never could find him. But he was alive.
PT 109.
Yeah, he found his boat, but that's the closest we got to him.
Wow.
But you're saying, when you say if you were overboard, if something happened and you were knocked overboard, no one came back to look for you?
No, they didn't. They just
wrote you off.
Wrote you off, and that was it.
The America that emerged after World War II, post-World War II, was a very strong, patriotic America. Went on to build and become just an incredible nation. But today, it's different.
Yeah, it is.
What do you think about it?
I don't know quite what to think about it. I know it's certainly not what I was used to. And the way things are going right now, I begin to wonder if we're not going down the tube faster than we can realize it and come back out. I don't know. I don't know what the...
Do you think there's the resiliency to fight off tyranny and intrusion like there was when the clarion call went out for all of you young boys and girls? I mean, the women went to the factory and built ships and airplanes, and the men went off to the battlefield.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if that call could happen today.
I don't know either. Everything is done so much different, so I really don't know how to explain what I feel. I mean, it's certainly a lot different than it was when I was in the service, or the first part of the service.
Seeing what you saw, and I certainly want to be respectful of the fact that every World War II vet I talk to don't want to talk about it,
right?
And I want to respect that.
Yeah.
But how did that, now, looking back on, how's that influenced your faith?
It's really built. I'm been a Christian for a good many years. In fact, we've been members of the CBCS for 50-some years. And
that's the Community Bible Church in Central Point.
Right.
Right.
All of our kids went through there. They're all real good Christian kids, and I'm so proud of that. But our faith, I think, has been very powerful since then.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Merion, I just want to say thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
My dad served in World War II, a different capacity, until he broke his back.
Yeah.
And so I think we all have, at least my generation has memories of parents and loved ones who served in that arena, and it's an amazing thing. I remember the Vietnam era. That was a different war.
Yes,
that was the first time America faced guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
And the whole political scene around that was so different. But the World War I, especially World War II, and all that went on is just an amazing thing. I don't think America would be America if you guys weren't there. It just wouldn't be there.
Yeah. That's very true, probably.
Yeah.
I know that what I went through and what I saw, it's really hard to talk about it because some of my very close friends was part of that,
Yeah.
And like I said, when I had to help put my buddy to sea and get him ready for burial, that was the hardest thing I probably ever done in my life.
Yeah. Now, did you bury him at sea, or did you send him home?
No, buried at sea.
At sea.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. You did.
Yeah.
Very few came home.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you were probably around 19 or 20 at the time.
I think I was about 20. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the other thing, is what you guys saw at such a young age.
Well, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, Todd, you saw more than you really wanted to see in a lifetime. I mean, you saw some pretty gory things too, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. More than I would care to.
Yeah. And that's the part about war we don't understand. I think we'll see it on films and then we try to politically correct it, but somebody's got to go literally fight it. So, Merion, thank you, my friend. Blessings on you. And I see you brought your sweetheart with you. How many years you been married?
64.
64.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow's our anniversary.
Well,
64
happy anniversary.
in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God bless you. I will take a quick break, and we'll be right back.